brain rot. I love it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it.
I've been married a long time ago.
We all suffer from our focus being completely obliterated in recent years from all this short form content. If there isn't a fart joke or a get out sound effect, how am I supposed to laugh and to actually be able to focus on it for more than 10 seconds? Which, if we're being honest, is a really big problem when it comes to education, reading capability, and the social cohesion of our country. But I don't know anything about that, so we're going to talk about movies, films, yes, the cornerstone of our life. But in all seriousness, it is funny how, like, back in the day, TV shows and movies were like the OG boogeyman for the boomers when it came to attention span. And granted, if nowadays you spend 8 hours watching Friends and Harry Potter on repeat, you should probably turn that off, go outside, touch some grass, go back inside, and play 12 hours of video games like a real adult. Real adults play Elden Ring and Minecraft for 16 hours. Those Let's Plays are not going to make themselves. But I really do hate the fact that it's so much harder for me to do anything that I love without feeling this itch to reach for my phone, like reading, writing, going on a hike, going to the gym, even just hanging out with my loved ones. I'm like, I gotta check my phone. No one's messaging me. I'm not important. Trying to just sit with your own thoughts is a struggle. Try and just for like an hour, do some prayer, meditate, just for an hour. No music, no nothing, just silence, dude. It's so difficult. Yeah, it makes sense that we like struggle with sitting in silence. I feel like every generation in the world has struggled with sitting with their own thoughts. We're just the first generation that doesn't have to. But we're also the first generation to struggle to spend time watching something that's meant to be entertainment and also be reaching for something else. There's like a FOMO of our phone, of the next thing, always, constantly, even when we're just watching something for fun. So today, in this video, I'm going to challenge you to watch 5 movies that I feel like are good movies to watch to reset your mental clock, to get rid of some of that brain rot that's been growing in there. It's getting gooey. Let's shovel it out. Now, when you watch these movies, don't watch them all in one day. You could watch them all in one day. They're not that long, but sit down, take a break, in between, have a day break, think about what you're watching, the format of it, how it's structured, how it makes you feel. If you want to be a really big nerd, write it down. Write down how you feel from in here, right here. And of course, I have to say this because there's someone in the comments that's going to be like, actually, these are not the most obscure films. They're not the smartest films. They're not the deepest films. I just really enjoy them. I feel like they're nice and slow paced. Some of them. 2 of them I feel like are a little bit faster paced than the other ones. They're enjoyable with the fact that they make you slow down and actually think about what you're watching. I think they're fairly unique, and maybe you'll enjoy one of these films. This might become one of your favorite films. Some of these might be the best films ever made for you. So I'm always glad sharing slightly less mainstream movies, which these definitely are not mainstream besides maybe one of them. But enough of yapping, let's get into it. 5 movies that will cure your brain rot. Now, one last thing, if you can tell, the bookshelf is becoming really empty. I'm getting rid of all these books. I'm giving them away to libraries. But I did pull out my movie collection. I've got The Bee Movie and Lincoln. Those are the only 2 movies I own in physical media right now. I've got a box somewhere in this house with more movies. I just don't know where they are. I don't feel like getting them out for this video, but that's what I got so far. Now, this first film is not weird at all. It's just a little bit weird. It's a little bit less than standard. That's why I wanted to recommend it first on the list, because it's kind of like a beginner taste, to get your palate a little wet. It's Thunder Road. And the reason why I recommend this is because I've actually gotten my friends to watch this who are not into films. They watch all the basic stuff. They do not care about artistic integrity. They don't care about they just want to watch something funny or entertaining. And I actually got them to watch this all the way through. And they would make comments like, "What is going on? Of course you would recommend something like this, and I don't know if I like any of the people we see on the screen." And that's true to the film. Directed by Jim Cummings. It's not just directed by him, it was written by him. I think it was produced by him. He stars in it. And that's really the main reason why I recommend this movie, is because it is singular vision from this director. It's a comedy drama starring a man who, his mom just died. He just got divorced. He's struggling. He's in the lowest part of his life. He's not sure where he's going, what he can do, and it has some great moments. I really enjoy it throughout, especially the opening scene. If the opening scene is too much for you, then I don't think you'll make it past this list that much. The opening scene, he originally made it as a short film, and that's actually what got him to get enough money to make the rest of this movie, was the beginning of this movie. So I guess you could just watch the first 10 minutes, and that will be the judge of the rest of the movie for you. Like I said, Jim Cummings' style is all over this, and the reason why I enjoy it so much is because I feel like a lot of mainstream Hollywood movies nowadays, they all release the same kind of thing, where they try to reach the broadest audience, the most people, obviously because they want money, obviously because they need to sell tickets, so they get the biggest comedy name on there, and they make the same jokes as the last movie. It's some combination of fart, poop, small peanuts, and I do so many drugs. Aren't I crazy for doing all these drugs? It's a combination of just like probably the crudest humor possible. And while this film does not stray away from the crude humor, it at least vignettes itself into something more specific to the director himself, which is what I like. I like to see a unique perspective. I'd rather someone take a risk and me not enjoy it than to see something I've already seen a dozen times or more.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Art.
You gotta give me a minute. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna have to hold on to this desk for a minute.
Please.
You gotta stop.
Thunder Road, really enjoyed by Jim Cummings. You can check out his other movie. It's like Werewolf something. I forget it. I probably should have Googled it just to get the title. But both of these movies are very strange. I recommend Thunder Road over the Werewolf movie, obviously. This is the first step in getting rid of the brain rot. I feel like it's a good, getting your feet wet kind of movie. At number 2, this movie, A Hidden Life, is not a funny movie. I'm really throwing a 180 at you guys here. This is the opposite of a comedy drama. This is about real life events that took place during World War II. And the great thing about this movie is that even though it's based off of true events, the true events don't even need to be 100% accurate, because the movie is not, it's more of a hypothetical than anything. It's about an Austrian farmer. His name is Franz Jägerstrater. I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly. It sounds like a Attack on Titan name. But Franz here, he is asked by the mustache man, his army, whether he's going to fight for him. And if he doesn't fight for him, or at least show enough public support for his efforts, he's going to get executed. He's going to get murdered by the Third Reich. They're just going to kill him. And so the whole movie is him wrestling with this idea that he knows that they're doing something wrong. He knows that his entire village is supporting something wrong, and that what they're doing is morally abhorrent, yet what difference does it make that he might give up his life? Directed by Terrence Malick. This director, if you've never seen him before, his style might throw you off immediately because it's very moody, it's very vibey, his camera work is very different, but he definitely mixes reality and spirituality into his films. The camera is not an objective source. It's definitely more of a subjective perspective of our main character. And that's what I really like about his movies. His other films, The Tree of Life and Thin Red Line, both great movies. I would definitely check those out as well. But I specifically like this one because it does hone in on this one character. And if you're watching this movie and you don't start to question morality, nationality, religion, what it means to do the right thing at the end of the movie, I don't know if your frontal lobe is working correctly. I don't know if anyone's up there running the machine. This did make me question what I value as a human being, what I value within my actions, that someone would go through this arduous journey and make the decision that he ended up making it. But alongside that really like heavy material, Terrence Malick's style is not traditional in the sense the camera's going to move around. He's going to have wide angle lenses. I love it when they do things that if you or me were to do it, it would probably be like, this is the worst thing we've ever seen. But because he's an established director, it's kind of like, no, that kind of looks good. But I will say this movie, it's long. It's got a long runtime, very thin on plot, but you got to give it a chance. You just got to lay back, let it do its thing.
Hey, pal. You just blowing from Stupid Town?
Really just think about what's happening on the screen, what this man is going through, what his family would be going through, and what you would do in his situation. That's really the heart of most stories. And if you genuinely gave it a chance and you still didn't like it, you can come back here and yell at me in the comments. Everyone, eventually, sooner or later, has this little pocket in their life where they become obsessed about Van Gogh. Whether it's from his actual artwork or that one Doctor Who episode, or if you're like me, it's from this movie, you just become obsessed about this man and his life and everything that he went through, and you just can't get enough of wanting to see what his life was actually like. The director, Julian Schnabel. Schnabel, is that how you pronounce it? The director of this movie, Julian Schnabel, really did something unique, which is really strange because most of this is just Willem Dafoe walking around in the woods, and it's just shots of him. I don't know if he was actually painting in the movie, but he might just be pretending to paint, but it is really riveting. I love this movie. It's one of those movies that I come back and I watch every once in a while because I'm just so perplexed on why I enjoy it so much. It might just be the fact that even though Van Gogh was born in 1853, he feels so much more like a modern man, like someone born in the 21st century or the late 20th. He has this very unique modern sense to him, which is probably why he's more popular today than he ever was in his own lifetime. He's considered the best of all time. And I do think that comes from the fact that he is just, his struggle with his mental health, with his issues with depression and his manicness, it feels something that would happen nowadays. And he was also very revolutionary when it came to his artwork. People thought his stuff was just ugly. He was kind of hated. And this movie really does show that this is just some guy trying to make paintings and being like, I think they're good. Does someone want to buy them? And it does show the struggle of this one man and his life, even though it is a biopic. And I usually really dislike biopics because they try to summarize one person's life into 2 hours, maybe 3 hours if you're lucky. Or they put something like at the beginning of the person's childhood that inspires their whole artwork, which is not something this movie does. This movie does not put you in Van Gogh's childhood and his mom like spilled some tea and then moved it around in his form of artwork and that inspired everything he ever did. No, this is about him as an adult, really just in his last couple of years just struggling, not knowing what to do with himself, really humanizing him, and how he feels like he was made for another generation, which ultimately was true. He was not an artist for his time. He was definitely an artist for the future. This film gives you a really brief glimpse into a man on how he feels and how he sees the world. He's weird, he's awkward, definitely mentally not all there, but he becomes just so relatable, almost like an everyman, because I feel like we are a generation that is kind of lost. We're in between something, just kind of how like Van Gogh was. He was in between something and we're in between something. That's kind of the point of this, is to get you to slow down and to think of how we tell stories, why we tell stories, and the importance of empty space in a certain way, or blurred lines. You know, Van Gogh is so good at doing that. A blurry paint stroke is more impressive and more meaningful than a perfect straight line. This film is also where this meme comes from. So if you want to watch it just to see the meme, IRL, then you can watch it for that.
All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being.
Okay, and number 4, we've got something a little bit different than the other films I mentioned. This is more in line, maybe more mainstream. A lot of people consider this to be one of the best movies ever made, and I would agree with that. It's a great film. We're going old school with this one. This is 12 Angry Men, 1917, Sidney Lumet. Really great movie. It's about 12 men in one room arguing.
Thanks, Captain Obvious.
Now, if you know anything about filmmaking, you've probably heard people say things like, oh, don't have a lot of dialogue, show, don't tell, have multiple locations, have great camera movement, yada, 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 use the visual format. The director of this took that filmmaking handbook and threw it out the window. This is 12 men talking, still shots, but it shows how limitations on something that you wouldn't usually want to impose on yourself can make something great. The camera work here is not visually impressive from like a grandiose scale. Not like the other films where there might be great wide shots or incredible close-ups. This is a perfect example of how technical work, how getting the idea out, precise idea, is more important than actually just having a great shot. Like I mentioned, it's all shot in one room, so the blocking in this movie is super important. Where you put the actors, what's happening is really essential to how it is. This story takes place during a murder trial where this inner city kid, if he is guilty, he's going to face capital punishment. And at first, the evidence just looks overwhelmingly that he's guilty. And the jurors are ready to go home. You know, jury duty, even back in the 1950s, people hated it.
Well, I mean, you ever hear so much talk about nothing?
Well, I guess they're entitled.
But one of the guys, he starts fact-checking the evidence to see whether it is concrete or not. And he starts poking holes into the evidence. And it just becomes so incredibly intriguing, enveloping. It takes something so simple and it covers it from every angle. And the important part is how diverse the characters are when it comes to their personalities and what they think. Each one of them has a different way of approaching the evidence. Some of them are apathetic, some of them are more logical, some of them are motivated by other things besides the evidence. And the story does just a fantastic job. You can definitely relate at least to one of these characters. I did mention it is in black and white, and I know that some people are just 100% against black and white movies, especially ones that are super old. But if you want to expand your understanding of film, expand your palette when it comes to enjoying this art form, you're really going to have to watch a lot of black and white movies. A lot of them are not just in black and white, but they're also from foreign countries where you're going to have subtitles and stuff like that. And some of the best movies ever made are in black and white, and some of the best cinematography is also in black and white. Just the lighting in a black and white movie is just so different from in color. You see the contrast. You see the brightest moments, you see the darkest moments. And so if you say you're a fan of film, if you're a connoisseur, a cinephile, then you have to be an enjoyer of black and white movies. And if you can't, well, I hate to say it, the brain rot has fully consumed you. I don't know what else to say besides 12 Angry Men. You've probably heard of it. Give it a chance. It's a great film. There's a reason why it's a classic. Now, I was really debating on what to put number 5 at the list. I wasn't sure if I should do another old classic like 12 Angry Men or maybe a more modern indie film. But then it dawned on me that I don't have any black and white Polish films set in France post-World War II. Luckily, I knew the perfect director for this movie. Paweł Polikowski. Sorry, I know these director names, sometimes they're really difficult. Sorry, Paweł, if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. I'm trying my best. Someone that's Slavic descent, I feel like I should be able to pronounce this. I have got a weird name too. I can't do it. I should probably try harder. Paweł Polikowski directed Cold War, which came out in 2018, so it's a lot more modern. One moment from this movie that I think I'm always going to remember happens right at the beginning. Our main character, he's going from village to village, and he's recruiting these villagers for some kind of singing competition for the Soviet Union. They want them to propagandize their village life. They want to hold the culture of the Soviet Union together. And so they're getting these Polish people to sing these Russian songs. The other main character, she starts singing it. My dad walks in while I'm watching this movie, and he recognizes the song. My dad grew up in southern Belarus, so he would know this song if it was genuine or not. And he started singing along to it. He said that this is a true village song, and I was like, wow. He gave the stamp of approval, at least when it came to the song part, which I really enjoyed, knowing that he knew that. He left after 5 minutes. The rest of the movie completely bored him, but at least he liked the song part. Yeah, but Paweł's storytelling here is just amazing. I just love this kind of camera work that is just so unique to its style. This movie was shot in 4:3 aspect ratio, which completely changes the kind of framing you can do. Since it's more of a square, it's not a complete square, but everything in the center of the frame just becomes so focused. Everything is just, all your attention goes on it. When you have such a wide screen, it's usually better when the shot is symmetrical and there's two things on each side. But when the image is more of a square, your focus goes straight for the center. And this is just a beautiful movie when it comes to the cinematography. I'm a little upset that it didn't win the year that it came out, cinematography. It's a gorgeous film. Honestly, you could watch it with the sound off and just look at these amazing shots. I don't know if I can think of another movie that has amazing shots like this in 4:3. I think there's First Reform, also a great movie in 4:3. It has Ethan Hawke in it, a great cinematography. I think more people should do 4:3. It is a little weird watching it in the movie theater. The screen is so big, but they only takes up like a half of the screen, maybe even less. The storytelling is part of the cinematography. Obviously, any story is told by its visual medium, but I really do think the movie can just be watched by its camera work. The story, it's a romance between the two main characters. I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to spoil it. Not that this kind of movie really, even if you found spoilers about it, it's not plot heavy. It's under 90 minutes. I think it's 88 minutes if I'm remembering correctly.
Nope.
For the last one, I know it's black and white. I know it's subtitled. I know it's got a 4:3 aspect ratio. You're just lucky it's not from like 1943. This is the last challenge for you. Challenge. Some people are going to be like, I can watch 5 hours of someone sitting in a field from Uganda. There's always someone like that thinks they're better than people because they can watch something even more boring than this. I mean, I'm kind of one of those people, to be fair. I'm making a list of movies that are kind of like that. But regardless, this is like the final step. After that, I feel like you can pretty much watch anything that you want. that's obscure or weird or deep or not very mainstream. A lot of these movies, they're not super explosive when it comes to its storytelling, mainly because a lot of indie films, a lot of lesser known movies, the more explosive they get, the more weirder they get. Maybe at some point I'll make a list of the weirdest movies I've ever seen, or some of the weirdest movies I've ever seen. But this list is supposed to be a little bit slower pace, something to get your attention span back up, make you think about what you watch, how stories are told. If you're a cinematographer, I feel like these movies would be great for you to watch. I didn't plan for this to be a cinematography video, but there are some amazing shots here. What's a movie that you think would fit well on this list? Something that you think is slow pace and something that gets you to refocus? Or maybe just a movie that you enjoyed that doesn't get enough love. There's plenty of them out there. Put it in the comments. Maybe I'll make a list of it. Maybe I'll watch it at some point. I love hearing your guys' recommendations. As always, if you like what I do here, you can leave a like, subscribe, and if you really love what I do here, you can buy me a coffee. That'll be down in the description. And as always, thank you for watching. Godspeed.